Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He has competed for numerous wrestling promotions across the country. I'm pleased to welcome Lou Marconi. Welcome, Lou, to Wrestling with Heart.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So, talk to me about your childhood and upbringing. Where did you grow up?
I grew up, it's Cleveland, Ohio, but it was a suburb outside of Cleveland called Brooklyn. There is a Brooklyn, Ohio. It's southwest of Cleveland. And yeah, I grew up in a suburb of there. I was born in Parma, Ohio, and we actually lived in the city of Cleveland area until I was about 2 or 1.5. Then we moved to Brooklyn. And I say we, it was my mom, my dad, and I had an older brother, and my mom was pregnant with my sister. So I was one of three kids. So
Oh,
I was the middle child. I was the middle child. So, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, I have an older brother, younger sister. I basically grew up there, same house. My parents still live. My parents still alive. My dad's 76. My mom's 73, and they live in the same house that we grew up in. They moved in that house in 74. I yeah, that's pretty much. I grew up pretty normal Italian Catholic upbringing. Was a wrestling fan since maybe I was 8 or 9 years old. I do remember my mom's grandfather, who was my great grandfather, was a fan of wrestling. He watched it all the time, so that's kind of how I got into watching it because I watched it with him, and he called it wrestling. And he went to his grave believing it was real, so it was great. But people always said, man, if he saw you doing that, because he died when I was 17, not before I got into the business. So yeah.
it's pretty young.
Well, I was 17. He was 82, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It was 1989 or 1990 when he died. Yeah, he's like in his early 80s when he
So,
passed.
yeah, I mean, 17 years old losing your grandfather. I mean, that's
Great
hard.
grandfather. His great
Great
grandfather.
great grandfather. Yeah, that's hard.
Actually, yeah, it is hard. Yeah, actually, it is. It's hard to lose anybody. It is. But he was sick for a long time. Actually, interesting story is before my senior year in high school, I went to visit him and with the family, and we tried to talk him to get him out of bed. And he said, "Do you want to watch wrestling with Louie?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah." So he got up and did it. So I was the last person to watch wrestling with him. It was
Wow.
just tapes. It was just old WCW tapes at the time. It wasn't even live. We were just watching like the Road Warriors. I remember we watched a couple matches. One of them was the Road Warriors.
Do you remember some of your favorites watching growing up?
Oh, yeah. And it's kind of weird for me to say it now because now I know what kind of a person he is. Ric Flair was one of my favorites. Um, my all-time favorite, which is pretty surprising. I mention him now. Nobody knows who I'm talking about. It's Magnum TA.
Hmm. It's a good
But
one.
I tried to explain to them. I said if he didn't have his car crash, you wouldn't know who he is today. He was just an amazing talent. He was one of my favorites. As I got older, I liked Kurt Hennig, Bret Hart, technical wrestlers, that type of stuff. I even like Bob Backlund. I admired him, and I got a story about him. It was 1996 when I was doing TV work for WWF, and Backlund was there, and I talked to him. He was one of the nicest people. I mean, I didn't tell him like, hey man, I was a big fan of yours. You just don't do that when you're there. We just talked about other things, but he was a really good guy. I liked him.
One of the greatest finishers of all time, that crossface chicken wing.
Yes, yes, but he was a like I said, he was a generally nice, down to earth guy and very cordial, very polite. You can't ask for anything more. So
No, definitely not.
mhm.
What age did you know that this was what you wanted to do?
It's funny if you talk to people that went to high school with me, grew up with me. I was talking about it since I was 12.
Hmm.
Yeah, I talked about it since I was 12 years old, and they tell me now, like when I see them, wherever anything's going on or some sort of reunion or anything, like, man, I remember you saying that. They couldn't believe that I did it. Like they couldn't believe I actually went through with it and I did it. I was like, yeah, but it was weird. whenever I talked to guys, other wrestlers that I knew from different parts of the country, different parts of the world, whatever, they were the same as I was. They were like, yep, they were always a fan. They grew up loving it and they always wanted to do it. One of my favorite people, I don't know if you ever talked to him or met him, was the Blue Meanie, Ryan
Yes, had
Heflin.
him on. Hmm.
Good, good friend. He was the same way. He was a huge fan. And he was trained by Al Snow, and I met him when he was Brian Rollins. I met him before he became the movie. I was, and he, that's, I mean, that's, we all have that. It's like in our DNA.
It's in the
It's like
blood.
one of those things. We just want to be a wrestler. Yeah, we're happy to be a part of it.
And the thing is like when you find like-minded people that are into what you're into, you form a
Hmm.
bond. It's that special friendship,
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
you, it's like a family, and you start really,
Hmm.
growing, and you start learning, and over time, those friendships, that they last, a lifetime, and so
Right.
getting to train. To be a wrestler, it is very hard because you have to go through so much and you have to put in a lot of work to do it. Now, what was your story like learning how to wrestle?
Okay. When I got out of high school, I was about 17, just before I got out of high school. At 17, I met this guy that did boxing locally. I went to a rec center, talked to this old time trainer, and he's like, come on up, I'll teach you how to box. And I became an amateur boxer for a while. I did that for almost 2 years. And I was like, all right, this isn't my passion, but I'm glad. I think it's a good idea for a young man to learn how to defend himself. You know, I mean, you're not, I mean, trust me, I wasn't going to get in the ring against like Mike Tyson or anything like that. I would have been destroyed. But I was like an 18-year-old kid. And, but I was at a gym and I ran into a guy, a local bodybuilder and wrestler that I knew who he was. It was Ron Cumberledge. And I reached out to him. I introduced myself. I just kind of asked him. I always wanted to wrestle. I said, hey, how do you get into this? How do you do this? He goes, oh, it was Charlie Fulton has a school in Marion, Ohio. And it was called at one time the Ohio Monster Factory. Then it became the Mid America Wrestling School. And this was in February of '93. And he gave me Charlie's number. I called him, and Charlie said, okay, I'll give you a chance. I'll let you try out. I'll let you know if you can do this or not. I'm not going to mess with you. I'm not going to take your money. I'm not going to waste your time. And I said, okay. I said, he gave me the price. It's like $1,700 to pay in full. And then that's it. I mean, he wasn't going to take a percentage of what I earned. He guaranteed me my first match and he kind of explained it. But the thing is that a lot of Charlie's guys, Charlie worked for WWF and Charlie knew all the road agents at the time. This was 1993. Okay, this was like Tony Gurria, Rene Goulet, Jay Strongbow were there. So I said, okay. So it was in February. I drove down there with a friend, didn't know anything, had no idea what I was getting into. And all I remember was being nervous as hell because here it is. This is the one thing I always wanted to do. Could you imagine somebody crushing your dreams and telling you, hey, you can't do it? So he showed me a couple things. Like they showed me how to bump. They watched me bump. They showed me how to hit the ropes. I hit the ropes. I said, okay, come on. Charlie pulled me aside and he goes, when can you start? I was like, oh, just so you know, but let's just back up right there. Because I had to put together money and put together a payment plan. I took on a second job making pizzas to pay for it. But, and I gained like 15 pounds doing that because I got all the free pizza I want. but anyway, the story there, I was so nervous about it. The only person that knew I was going there in my family was my sister. But she told my mom, and when my mom called me, I think later on that day when after I got home, she's like, "So how did it go?" Like she asked me, so she knew. Sorry, my thumb was in the camera. She goes, "So how did it go?" And I'm like, "It went well." They said they want to know when I could start. She goes, "Well, they thought I was crazy." My family thought I was completely out. Like, you're not going to, are you crazy? Look at these guys on TV. They're 6'5", they're 300 pounds, they're walls of muscle. You know, you're barely 6 feet tall. You weigh 230. Yeah, they're going to destroy you. You know, you're not going to have a chance, which I always found that interesting now because there's guys that are like half my size holding world title belts, which is hilarious compared to what it was 30 years ago. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I put together a plan. I started in April of '93 training. So that's kind of what happened was I had to pull my money together and in the first year is like the absolute worst for anybody. in the business because you really get tested on if you want to do this. You know, you don't make anything. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody gives a shit who you are. I'm sorry if I didn't mean if I
Okay.
should have thought. Is it okay?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. No, nobody cares. Nobody really cares. And then that's I hate to say it, but that's the reality of it. And you got to just keep plugging away until you get a break. And it was interesting because I remember when I was there, I thought for the first year, like some guys didn't even know my name. They didn't care to learn my name, Charlie's guys. And it was a lot of, I thought they didn't like me. I just wasn't in. Like, "Oh, what am I doing?" Plus, my family thought I was crazy. Like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. Which they would deny it today. My parents would. Well, we supported you. Yeah, but you didn't believe in me. You know what I mean? There's a difference. So they now I'll tell you what turned it around. Is it okay if I tell the story?
Yeah, go for it.
Because a lot of times uh, when the WWF came in the area, then WWF, which is today's WWE for all the younger people out there, um, they would call Charlie when they need guys for TV. So I'll never forget this. I got booked. Charlie called me and told me WWF called. I want to send you. Do your job. Show up and do your job. I said, okay. He goes, don't, everything was good. I'll be there. I'll do it. I can do it. I'll make it, everything. And it was in May of 94. So keep in mind, I'm 13 months in the business with a handful of matches under my belt. Before we went there, I kind of got the rundown of, of you don't go there. This isn't an independent show. You don't fuck around. You keep your mouth shut. Sorry if I swore again. Because you don't. I said just you keep your mouth shut. Do your job. Somebody hits you, you bump. Somebody hits you, you sell. Sell, bump, do what you're told, and do not make Charlie look bad. I remember just a couple of guys were pulled me aside. They were in my face, pointing. I mean, they're like yelling at me like drill sergeants. I'm like, I got it. Don't worry, I got it. And the first show was in Canton, Ohio. It was for Wrestling Challenge, and then WWF Superstars was in Erie, Pennsylvania, the next day. These are TV tapings, and it was right before Memorial Day. I wasn't even old enough to drink. I was like 20 years old. Okay. And it was funny. I got Bob Holly, he was Sparky Plug at the time. This is just a quick story. I remember Chris Hamrick. Him and I became friends ever since this. I met him there because I guess Italian Stallion and George South brought up their guys from the Carolinas. For some reason, they drove all the way up to Ohio for the TV, but they did. And I was there and I got to team up with one of their guys on the second night against the Head Shrinkers. But the first night, I got Sparky Plug, Bob Holly. And I remember I said something to somebody, hey, I got Sparky Plug tonight. And Chris Howard just told me, oh man, watch out for this. Watch, he's stiff with this, he's stiff with that. He's going to throw you in the ropes and not say a word to you. Because back then, guys, we called spots in the ring. Things weren't worked out all in the back. You called it in the ring. So I reached out to Bob. I've introduced myself, said, come find me when you're ready to put the match together. I can do whatever you need me to do. Okay. And then Chris told me that. So I was mentally prepared for it. So I go into the ring and he did something. We did something with me and he whipped me off the ropes and he couldn't like get it out. He couldn't spit out the spot. So I'm halfway across the ring and I saw him set up for an elbow. So I took the bump. Then he picked me up and he's like, and I said, drop kick me. He drop kicked me. So I started calling it. I started calling spots. I just took over. And I didn't mean, I wasn't, for him to be on top of me. Yes, for him to get all these moves in. And there was a spot when we had to go from corner to corner and he was going to kick me with a savate kick to the face. And I swear to God, I thought I got knocked out. He kicked me so hard in the mouth. And I felt blood. I mean, I saw the white flash. I bumped. And I remember Earl Hebner was the referee. He was just like, he went, oh shit. He almost took my head off. And I didn't get knocked out, but I saw the white flash and I could hear the audience. So I said, okay, I'm okay. I felt the blood. And that's why when the camera shot started going wide after that. And then we kept going. I think we did about a 4 or 5 minute match. And I said, hey, let's take it home. And he says, okay. So he hopped up on that, he dropped the knee. And he was stiff with a lot of other stuff, but that was the one thing he was stiff with. And then we took it home, and because the first thing he asked me after that kick was, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, let's keep going." Because he almost, I said, "Let's keep going." So we kept going. I did that, and when I got to the back area, I overheard the referee telling the road agent the kid called the match. Well, keep that in mind. Hold that thought. I find a sink, I wash out, and there's like I had to put butterflies on the inside of my lip because he split my inside of my lip open. And I remember just thinking, like, I was seething mad. I was so mad. I was so pissed. Here's a guy making money that I would dream of, getting this push on TV, and I had to freaking call spots for him. And here I am. But I was just doing what Charlie trained me to do. What happened was, and Bob will admit this, he was not comfortable calling spots back then. That's just how he was. It's not a big deal. It's no shame in it. We worked well together. We had a good match. He came up to me. He apologized profusely for kicking me in the mouth. And I said, no problem, man. Hey, it's no problem. We're good. Thank you for the match. Thank you. He goes, no, thank you. He said, thank you. Everything was good. I guess a couple weeks later, Charlie pulled me aside and said, WWF called about you. And I was like, yeah, okay, what? He's like, no, Korea called me. I was like, okay. And they said, you did a good job. They said they liked you. They said, you got potential being as green and as young as you are. You need to get rid of your baby fat and get more experience. 2 years later, I was working for them on a regular basis for TV. But here I explain this to young people all the time. Here was a chance. This whole match could have been a complete dumpster fire. Could have been a disaster. But I did what I was trained to do. I kept my cool. Here I am in front of 10,000 people, biggest crowd I ever wrestled in front of, biggest company in the world. Could have been a complete disaster. And it wasn't fair. It's not that was not fair for me to be in that position as young and as green as I was. But guess what? I made it work, and I did my job. I did, and after that point, I was in Charlie's school. I earned it. I was one of the boys. I was in. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, all right, I'm in now. All right, that's it. But then also too, when my parents saw me on TV, they started believing in what I was doing. They're like, okay, all right, he's getting somewhere. He's on TV now. So that you got to remember in the early 90s, that was a big deal. I don't know how old you are. I'm I'm 52. So I mean, back then it was like a big deal. And then, I started making more money. I started getting somewhere. It took about a year, a little bit over a year and a half before I really started getting somewhere. But hey, you got to persevere, guys. But that's my one story.
Yeah, I mean, you really put in the work to get that spot and get that exposure, and that kick. I'm sure it's a small price to pay,
It's
but
somewhere
you.
you can find it. It aired in like I want to say early June of '94. It was Lou Marconi versus Sparky Plug. I'm sure if you go on YouTube, you'll find it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I remember they showed it on TV a couple of times. Like, oh, look at this kick. And he kicked the shit out of me.
You could, it's like those things where it's a small price to pay, but it paid off later on because you're on TV, getting to work with so many people.
Oh, yeah.
Want to talk about some of the advice you got from Charlie and some of the people that you later worked with in the beginning of your career. Any pieces of advice that stuck with you and have applied to you even after your time outside the ring?
Okay, Charlie. I'll give you the first one, Charlie. The second one's going to be Al Snow. The first one was Charlie, was he basically told me, always be ready and be in shape. Meaning, if you get a call, you'll never know when you're going to get a call, say, hey, we want to bring you in and use you. If you tell them, hey, can you get back to me in a month? I want to get into shape. They're not going to call you back. They're going to go to the next guy on the list. So that's true. I mean, so I said, he goes, always be ready and be in shape and be ready to go. If you show up to TV and you show up to go work a show and you look like you're in shape and you're ready to go. If you're there and you're like 20 pounds overweight and you look, like you let yourself go, you're gonna be like, oh, what are we gonna do with this guy? You know what I mean? Versus, hey, the first thing they look at is how you look. That's the first thing any promoter will do. So you show up and you look like an athlete and you look like you're ready, that goes a long way. So that was that. The thing that Al Snow told me when I was in ECW and I got to work with him a couple times, he gave me great advice. Was as a baby face, he goes, sell with your head up. Let the people see your face. Let them see what you're selling. Let them see your face. And I was like, I guarantee you, the crowd will get behind you. And he used Hulk Hogan as an example, as people will say a lot. You can say a lot about Hogan, Lord rest his soul. And I know I never really was on a show with him working because when I was at WWF, he was at WCW. He made his money as a babyface because he could sell. He got the audience behind him. And what I mean by selling is like letting people believe that that the moves that are being done to you, that they're hurting you. And you're selling the move, you're selling what's going on, you're selling the anguish, and that's how it works. And he used Hulk Hogan as a great example. He also used the Rocky movies because if you watch, Rocky got the shit kicked out of him like 90% of the time in the movie, especially the first one. It's like, you're like, this guy keeps coming back. He keeps going. He keeps going. So it's kind of like that. Or even when Dusty Rhodes was making his run as a babyface, 80% of his matches he was selling. So that was heat. That's heat. So he explained to me just how to sell with my head up and show my face because that'll get you more places. And he was right. He was 100% right.
Preparation is the key, and always have that suspense of disbelief around,
Mhm.
because people want to believe in your characters. They want to believe that you're, getting hurt and making that comeback.
Right.
So that is very important to be able to let the audience know what's going on.
Yep.
Now, you've gotten to work against so many different people over the course of your career. Who have been some of your favorite opponents that you've gotten to step in the ring with over the years?
I said this on Facebook, and I don't know if you ever met him or talked to him. Remember Reckless Youth, Tom Carter?
Yes, yes.
He was we had it's on tape somewhere. We did for Steel City Wrestling a three-way dance. It was me, Reckless Youth, and Tom Carter. We did a 30-minute match. Tom Carter, Christian York. It was a Christian York, excuse me. Me, Tom Carter, Reckless Youth, and Christian York. And it was probably one of the best matches I ever had. And he was one of the best guys I ever worked with. So easy, so smooth. And I remember telling the promoter, like, because eventually, because later on that year, I ended up winning their championship. And we could have did a program with Reckless where he chased me for that belt. I was the heel, and we could have made money. We could have tore the house down. Instead, he went a different direction, which is it's his company. He can do whatever he wants. But I thought it was a missed opportunity. That was the summer of '98. But Reckless Youth was my favorite. Most memorable, I got to work with Tito Santana. And that was I did a weekend. I did 2 weekends. I did a weekend shot with him, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Lebanon, Pennsylvania, and he actually taught me something that I kind of went on to do. You know how Tito liked to put his matches together.
Mm-hmm.
He liked to do it backwards. Like, what's the finish, and we work our way back to make it make sense in the psychology. And he gave me the best compliment imaginable. Because you got to remember, back then, I was one of the hottest indie stars in the business in the late '90s, and he um he was telling me like I worked with him and he told me like you get into bad habits on the indie shows because you're working with guys that aren't really trained that well. And I was putting them in places where I want him. He goes, brother, I'm going to be there. You don't have to do that. So the second night went a lot better, and he came to me. He gave me feedback about that, and he came to me and like afterwards he shook my hand and he said, 3 weeks on the road with you, I'll have you ready for New York. That's what he said to me. Like if I worked with it, if I would have worked with him for with 3 weeks, and he goes, and I'm like, can you book me? Can you can we do this? I mean, but you know, it happens. But I thought that was great. But Tito was another one. God, I mean, I worked with Al Snow. I worked with Bam Bam Bigelow, Shane Douglas. I was at the old, the original ECW. That can, yeah.
I mean, certainly you've been able to, have these memories and
Mhm.
share locker rooms in a variety of different companies, and
Mhm.
I think it's amazing how you've put together quite the repertoire and have been able to uh, have these fond memories, going back, 30 plus years in the business.
Yeah.
Um, do you keep up with the product at all today?
Oh yeah, yeah, I do. I try to as best as I can. I do podcasting now. I do a podcast with Corey Castle. I don't know if you ever met Corey Castle or anything. We do the Stewcast for the Combat Zone Network, and we kind of just update, talk about things. I think right now the thing I'm paying attention to, we talk about a lot of news that's happening, like the thing that happened out in California with Rajay Jackson and Psycho Stu. And then the other thing, we bring up that, but we also talk about what direction WWE is going and AEW and everything. And I try to point out to people, like when they hear certain terms in the business today, they really don't know what those things mean. Like when they're marked, like when they said receipts, like you need to get your receipts. I'm like, no, that's not what that means. That's not what he wasn't supposed to go in there and destroy the guy like that. That just means if you're working a match with somebody and they hit you like potato, you're supposed to hit them back a little bit and say, hey, lighten up. That's all it is. That's a receipt. That's all it is. Sometimes they call it taking liberties when it's not, things like that. Um, but yeah, I do keep up with it for the podcasting and everything else. But yes.
Who are some guys or girls that you look at and go, man, this person's awesome. This guy's a star. This girl's a
Oh yeah.
big
Oh
star.
yeah. Yeah, I would. Who I think? Well, Rhea
Yeah.
Ripley. First off, I think Rhea Ripley is an amazing talent. Stephanie Vacure. I mean, and the thing is too, it's the guy. There was like, oh yeah, we know why. And I'm like, no, yeah, they're good looking women, but still, they still have talent. You got, I mean, how you look goes a long way at any time in any entertainment business. Cody Rhodes, I think, is a fantastic talent. I always one of the guys. God. LA Knight. I love watching LA Knight work. I love watching that guy work. He is fantastic. Always liked watching AJ Styles work. AJ is one of the nicest people I met in the business. Um, you don't believe it or not, and I'm going to say this, and I think he would make a great road agent, Stevie Richards. I think he would make a great road agent. I think he would. I've known Stevie for over 30 years. I mean, I haven't talked to him in a long time, but yeah, I think he would make a great road agent. So, Stevie, if you need a reference, tell Paul, give me a call.
Yeah, he's definitely very smart and he knows so much,
Oh
has
yeah,
so much
very knowledgeable in the
knowledge.
business. Hmm.
Now, outside of wrestling, I know you've done a lot of charity work and have been involved with a lot of different functions and things over the years. What kinds of
Hmm.
things have you done to help out in your community from over the years?
Um, well, where I live now, I went back to I lived in North Carolina for a little bit, back in Northeast Ohio, and I volunteered at it's a place called Santa's Hideaway in Middlefield, Ohio, which is a pretty much it's like a place. It's like for kids that are terminally ill and they're not going to live till Christmas. They have a chance to have Christmas at this place. It looks like the North Pole. So I've done that. I volunteered at food banks, and a lot of times I give money when I can. I just like to do that. I've also I'm a Mason, so I've donated to Masonic charities as well. So that's essentially what I've done. But I don't like to talk about that too much online or anything because I just do it on my own, and I don't do it for the adulation. I just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Was there like a particular moment where you were involved with something or you did something on your own that was very heartwarming and touching and something that you'll look back and go, man, this is just incredible.
Hmm. Uh, I'm trying to I guess people thanking me when I do these things. I got thanked donating the food bank when I showed up with a bunch of food and they thanked me. That's all I need. So just people thanking me. And nothing, I wasn't actually, I was helping fix things up at the Santa's Hideaway thing. I wasn't actually there when the kids were there. Um, but yeah, it's just people thanking me for doing what I did, shaking my hand. I was like, you're welcome. My pleasure. Not a problem. And the thing is, I don't, like I say, I don't, you notice I don't post that stuff online because I just do it. I don't really think I need people telling me how great I am because I'm doing it. So stuff like that. But right, I understand. It's just being thanked and just like people appreciate you doing it is all I need.
Yeah,
So
it has to feel good when you're making a difference in the community, it just goes a long
mhm,
way. You just never know what people are going through in their life.
absolutely. I donate what I can. I'll tell you what, I did this. This is the type of person I am, and I'm not bragging in this. I was at a restaurant and I was traveling. I was by myself. I'm eating by myself. And waitress that was at the restaurant, she was working another table and she was almost in tears because it was like a $60 check and they didn't leave her a tip. And she was a young girl. Who knows? This is their income. This is what it is. I thought it was pretty low in them to do that. So you figure 20% is $12. So, and my check was just with me was about $30. So I said, here you go. I'm giving you 30. I paid double. I gave her 30. I had the money. I said, here. She's, I can't ask you to do this. I said, no, take it. And she like hugged me. She couldn't believe it. And she was a young kid working her way through college. and I was in my 30s at the time. I was still wrestling. I was traveling. You know, I'll tell you what, the best road story I have. I'm gonna sidetrack here. I'm married now, and I have two daughters. They're 10 and 8 years old. That's kind of why I left the business because I was in my 40s and pretty much done. I was all beat up and I was done. And I remember I was in December of 2014. I'm in a hotel. I think I got done working out the hotel gym, and I just kind of texted my wife something. Whereas one was real, it was it was a sweatshirt saying "relax, let blah 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 handle it," but it said "let Marconi handle it," and I thought it was funny. So I got one better, and while I was gone, she took a pregnancy test, and it was a positive pregnancy test. That's how she told me she was pregnant while I was on the road. She had a feeling she was. We were trying to start a family, and we were going to wait till I got home, and I was coming home in a couple of days, and so I called him. I'm all excited. I'm going crazy. That's probably one of the best things is to have something like that. But go ahead, man. I'm sorry. I sidetracked.
Yeah, I mean,
Talking about well being a dad and volunteering. Like I volunteer coach my daughter's basketball team. So when she was 8, she was 7. I'm sorry, she was 7. That was last year.
what is it about giving back to the community that gives you the most joy?
Um, just being able to give back, to have the ability to do it. I mean, being blessed with being able to help people because I'm in such a good position. I lived a blessed life. I mean, I did. I mean, it was an amazing run because I got what people that I went to high school with that knew me back when I was a teenager said, "You did what you wanted to do." How many people can say that? And I said, "Very few, very few." And I said, "I did it." And you got to be willing to take the hits and put in the work, but the reward is amazing. It's amazing, just like anything else. When you have that ability to give back to people, you do it. You help
Exactly. Making a difference one step at a
them.
time.
Whatever little you can, whatever. I mean, you don't have to, give the shirt off your back if that's your only shirt you have, but you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. Just help yourself as best help as best as you can.
Absolutely. Lou, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers. I want to thank you for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. Where can people find out more about you on social media? If you have anything you want to plug, like your
Uh,
podcast, feel free.
okay, at El Marconi 251 on Instagram, at El Marconi 1973 on X. I do the Sunday Stewpot with Corey Castle. It's on Rumble every Sunday morning. I also do the Combat Zone, the Stu Cast every Wednesday. We do every Wednesday. They go live, but you can find it there on their X page. And Fans First Sports Network. I do the Fanatical Loves. I cover the Cleveland Browns. I podcast on that. I did have one story. Do I have time for it?
Yeah, feel free.
Okay. I had a story because people always told me like, "What's the most memorable moment you had in your career? What's the most memorable moment you had in your career?" It's the weirdest thing when I got to meet Bruno Sammartino, and I called my dad after this because he didn't believe it. I got to meet him. He was I want to say, God, this was like 18 years ago. And I went up to him. I shook his hand and said, "Sir, it's an honor to meet you. I'm Lou Marconi." And he looks at me and goes, "Lou Marconi, Lou Marconi. That's a great name, Lou Marconi, Lou Mar." I was like, "Well, sir, that's my real name." He goes, "Oh, that's even better." And he hugged me. He hugged me. I'm thinking, this is Bruno Sammartino hugging me. I was like, "Hey, thank you." I was like, "Thank you." It was one of the greatest moments I ever had. And I called my dad. He almost didn't believe me. He's like, "Get the hell out of here." I was like, "Dude, Bruno Sammartino was hugging me." He goes, "Oh, it's because you're Italian." I said, "Yeah, because the Italian name." But it was great. It was great. That was that was one of the most memorable. It's weird because people think, "Hey, when you won the national title for the NWA, because that was like the highest level title I ever had." I said, "No. Hey, appreciate you, man. Thank you."
Absolutely. And you're more than welcome to come back.
Oh, thanks for having me. I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, you were great. We'll do a part two in the future.
Yeah, probably. All right. I'll remember next time. I'll remember.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
No worries. Take care.
Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.